So this is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura is asking questions and Maitreya is answering questions asked by Vidura. Vidura is inquiring about the great devotee Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu means son of Brahma. The first Manu in this day of Brahma. Because Swayambhuva Manu is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, therefore Vidura is very eager to hear about the activities of Swayambhuva Manu. And Maitreya is beginning to describe, carrying forward from the previous chapter. Previous chapter he described the different activities of Brahma in creating this universe. So creation means Brahma's work is to generate the population. Actually creation is done by Viṣṇu. Which Viṣṇu? Which Viṣṇu does the creation? Mahaviṣṇu. Three Viṣṇus are there. The third Viṣṇu, you know, is the maintainer. Kshirodakṣayi Viṣṇu, maintainer. Mahaviṣṇu begins the creation, but he doesn't do the creation. He just generates the ingredients for the creation by agitating the material energy. But actual creation with the ingredients is done by whom? Garbhodakṣayi Viṣṇu, the second Viṣṇu. So Garbhodakṣayi Viṣṇu does the creation, actual creation. And Garbhodakṣayi Viṣṇu also generates Brahma. Brahma is born on the lotus flower emanating from the navel of Garbhodakṣayi Viṣṇu. So, then what is the creation being done by Brahma? If Garbhodakṣayi Viṣṇu is doing the entire creation of all the planets and all the diversities in all the planets, all the facilities for the living entities to live. Brahma creates only the living beings. That's all. That is Brahma's creation. So Brahma is called a secondary creator. And Brahma's creative work is called Visarga. There are 10 topics in Bhagavatam. Sarga, Visarga. Sarga is the primary creation and Visarga is the secondary creation. So Sarga is the creation by Viṣṇu and Visarga is the creation by Brahma. So Brahma only generates the population in the whole universe in different planets. So Brahma's creation begins with the previous chapter it was described. He generates different species of living beings. When Brahma thought of generating living entities, he begot 10 sons. Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrigu, Vasishta, Daksha, and the 10th son, Narada. So 10 sons were born. This is the beginning of the generation of Prajapatis. Means Brahma has created all these personalities. They will further increase the population. They will further create. So among them, no. After this, Brahma creates Manu and Shatarupa. Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa. And they are responsible for generating the human population. So they are responsible for generating the human population. So therefore it is said here, Brahma is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Manu is a representative of Brahma. And Manu is also described as the father of mankind or human population. And Manu has given for the human society the law book called as Manu-saṁhitā. So Manu, when he was born, he is asking Brahma, what is my duty? What service I can do? So Brahma is very pleased with this inquiry by Manu. The reason is, before the 10 sons, Marichi, etc., were born, Brahma had 4 sons, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara, the 4 Kumaras. So he asked them to generate progeny, but they refused. So Brahma became very angry with them. But it is explained, though they were not obeying Brahma's instruction, they disobeyed for a higher purpose. They disobeyed because they wanted to remain Naishtika Brahmacharis and completely dedicate themselves for self-realization. So Brahma became very, very angry with them, and Rudra was born out of such anger. And as soon as Rudra was born, he started generating, because he is born for the sake of increasing the progeny. So he started generating so many different sons of his, and they started devouring the whole universe. They started even attacking Brahma. So then Brahma instructed Rudra, no need to generate such population. So he instructed Rudra, you go to the forest and perform penance, tapasya. And when destruction is required, that time I will call you. Because Rudra and his associates are meant for destruction. So then Brahma generated the 10 sons. But how will these 10 sons increase the progeny? So there is a method of procreation or generating the population for each and every person. There is a specific method depending on the type of body they have. They have different processes for generating the population, offspring. So for human beings, it is by the combination of the male and female that the progeny can be generated. Whereas Brahma, he created all the offspring from different parts of his body. The Kumaras and Narada were born from his mind. They are called the mental sons of Brahma. It is described in the previous chapter. That because Brahma is empowered to generate population. In the beginning, Brahma was alone. So from the different parts of his body, he generated. Vasishta was born from his breathing. Daksha was born from Brahma's thumb. Bhrigu was born from his touch. Kratu from his hand. Pulastya from his ears. Angira from his mouth. Atri from his eyes. Marichi from the mind. Marichi is also a mental son. Pulaha from the navel of Brahma. Like that. So Brahma only is empowered that way. Because he was the only one in the beginning, alone. So the Lord empowered him to generate living entities from different parts of his own body. Just like Viṣṇu himself, how did he generate Brahma? From his navel. One lotus flower came out, and on that lotus flower Brahma was born. Viṣṇu is all powerful. So he can generate living entities any way he wants. He can create any way he wants. He has many potencies and he has many powers. But Brahma was specifically empowered to generate offspring from the different parts of his body. Now Brahma, after generating these 10 sons, he saw that the population is not increasing. So again, he went into meditation and took direction from the Supreme Lord how to increase the population. So in order to do so, as Brahma was thinking how to increase the population, by the direction of the Supreme Lord, suddenly 2 more forms came out of his body. And they are described as the body of Brahma. One was a male form and other one was a female form. So the male form became known as Manu and the female form became known as Shatarupa. And both of them combined to generate good progeny. Because the order of Brahma to Manu was generate good population like yourself for the welfare of the whole world. So they combined according to religious principles. And Bhagavad Gita, Krishna declares, Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. So Krishna says, I am sex life which is according to religious principles. According to religious principles, sex life is considered to be representation of Supreme Lord. And that's how, if somebody follows religious principles and engages in sex life, then they can produce very good progeny for the welfare of the whole world. Even great devotees, they engage in sex life for generating pure devotees, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He had as his son Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Very, very powerful preacher. So, like that, Kardama Muni, he had the Supreme Lord himself as his son. Vasudeva and Devaki, they engaged in severe austerities to have the Supreme Lord as their son. So this is engaging in sex life according to religious principles. Of course, Vasudeva and Devaki did not engage in sex life. Simply by performing penance, the Lord agreed to appear as their son, and Krishna entered the heart of Vasudeva, and Vasudeva transferred the Supreme Lord from his heart to Devaki's heart. And from Devaki's heart, the Supreme Lord entered the womb of Devaki. And in due course of time, the Lord came out of Devaki's womb. But that was also extraordinary. He came out of Devaki's womb and he appeared in his four-handed Narayana form. So, appearance of the Lord as son of Vasudeva and Devaki is not like ordinary people begetting children. In any case, even if somebody engages in sex life for generating good progeny, if they follow the religious principles, then they are able to generate good progeny which will be helpful for the purpose of this creation. What is the purpose of this creation? Going back home, back to Godhead. That is the purpose of this creation. But because living beings in this material world are inclined to enjoy materially, therefore there is also facility for material enjoyment through sense gratification. But such arrangement is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord as Paramatma. So anybody wants to enjoy their senses, unless Paramatma permits, one cannot enjoy how much ever one may try independently to enjoy. Not possible. Therefore, the Supreme Lord as Paramatma sits in everybody's heart, and only by his sanction can any material endeavor give the result to the performer. People are engaged in so many activities. Primarily, their activities are meant for two purposes. One is material enjoyment, other one is material lording over. Fundamentally, living entities have two desires in this material world. And from those two desires, so many other desires are generated. So what are the primary two desires of the living entities? To enjoy materially and to lord over material nature. So that is summarized by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Ishwaroham aham bhogi. These are two primary desires of all living entities who are born in this material world under the laws of karma, laws of nature, laws of God. And these two desires multiply because they struggle very hard for enjoying and lording over. Actually, they are not meant to enjoy or lord over. The enjoyer and the Supreme Lord, the real Lord is Krishna. He is the enjoyer, he is the Lord. But living entities, they want to take the position of Krishna. And therefore, they are engaged in a hard struggle for existence. So scriptures describe this hard struggle for existence can at once be stopped if one understands what is the purpose of creation. And they can become fully satisfied and happy by working for the real purpose of this creation, going back home, back to Godhead. So here, Brahmā is instructing Swayambhuva Manu what is the best service that Manu can do for Brahmā. What is that? If he can give proper protection to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me, Brahmā is telling Manu. To give protection to the living beings. Why should this protection be given? So that the living beings, they will be educated what is the purpose of their existence, material existence. It is to prepare themselves to go back home, back to God. And for that purpose, Manu, not only he creates the human species, but he also gives directions through Manu-saṁhitā. So all human beings are supposed to follow Manu-saṁhitā. And the essence of Manu-saṁhitā is that Manu-saṁhitā directs all activities towards the transcendental service of the Lord. So how to go back home, back to Godhead? By engaging in devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Transcendental service of the Supreme Lord. So the king or the administrative head of the government should not only take taxes from the citizens, but see that all the citizens are trained in Viṣṇu worship. All the citizens are trained in Viṣṇu worship. And in the Viṣṇu Purana it is said, even the Varnashrama system given by the Supreme Lord for human beings, human society, Varnashrama charavata purushena parapuman Viṣṇurāradhyate. Viṣṇurāradhyate. The purpose of this Varnashrama system is to train everybody how to worship Viṣṇu. And by worshipping Viṣṇu, they engage in what is called as devotional service. And that devotional service will result in the living being going back home, back to God. So, worship of Viṣṇu should be done in such a way that Viṣṇu is pleased by such worship. Viṣṇurāradhyate pantha nānyat tattosha kāranam. The purpose of Viṣṇu worship is to please Viṣṇu. It's to satisfy Viṣṇu. So all activities must be performed in this spirit. And that is the only way of liberation from material bondage, as explained in Bhagavad Gita. What is the verse? Yajñārthāt karmanaha anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Tadartham karma kaunteya. Tadartham means do all activities as sacrifice to Viṣṇu for the sake of pleasing Viṣṇu. So sacrifice means to do something for pleasing Viṣṇu. the same as the purpose of the Varnashrama system. So, essence of Varnashrama system is work should be done as sacrifice to Viṣṇu for pleasing Viṣṇu. And that is nothing but devotional service. So here in the Purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the conditioned souls are meant not to satisfy their material senses, but to satisfy the senses of Hṛṣīkeśa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If somebody tries to satisfy the senses independently, they'll be frustrated. They'll never be satisfied. They'll never be happy. Of course, people may say that I'm very happy with sense gratification. I'm not frustrated. Because they are under the illusory energy. So because of being under illusion, they may sometimes think that they are really happy, while actually they are not happy, they are suffering. There's a power of illusion that even if somebody is suffering, they think they are very happy. So, when one actually becomes frustrated in their attempts to actually get real happiness and real satisfaction, then they may turn towards inquiry. Where is real happiness? Or what should I do to become really happy? Or what will really satisfy me? So that inquiry is technically called Brahma Jignasa. Human form of life, the intelligence is given to do this Brahma Jignasa, spiritual inquiry. Because material activities, material endeavors are useless for getting real satisfaction, real happiness. One may get some illusory happiness, but that illusory happiness is not going to last. Even if somebody says illusory happiness is also okay for me, but it is not going to last. It is flickering, it is temporary, it is momentary. It's called chapala sukha. Means it is there for a very short time. And then it will go away. It will disappear. That happiness will disappear. Real happiness is eternal. Eternal happiness. And it is real. Real means not something which has to be arranged by some special arrangement. Just like if we have to enjoy materially, we have to make so many arrangements. First of all, we have to secure so many material objects, or at least one sense object we have to get. And then that sense object, in order to enjoy, we have to provide the senses with the sense objects in the appropriate way. Just like somebody may grow some grains, but you cannot just eat those grains and enjoy, relish eating that. You have to do some processing of that grains. Then only you can eat and relish. Correct? So like that, everything is an arrangement. All forms of material enjoyment or material sense gratification is an arrangement. And this arrangement is called phenomenon in this material world. Phenomenon means it is a illusory arrangement. Just like the pleasure of seeing something beautiful. It is simply some light is falling on the object. That light is reflected and falls on the eye, the reflection, and from the eye one signal is sent to the brain, and in the brain there is a sensation. That sensation is what we call seeing. And that seeing also is dependent on light, is dependent on this eye functioning properly. Just like the eyesight becomes weak and cannot see properly. There is no light. In the darkness you cannot see. Or some problem with the connection from the eye to the brain, optic nerve, then they cannot see. Or even if everything is properly arranged, mind is very disturbed. Then also they cannot see properly or they cannot enjoy seeing. What is this whole arrangement of cinema? Simply trying to enjoy seeing. Some light patches. That's all. So actually, why we say this enjoyment through these senses is illusory? Because it's all concocted in the mind. It is what we create in our mind as enjoyment. Otherwise, there is no real enjoyment per se. What enjoyment can be there in some sensations of form or touch or taste or smell or sound. There is no enjoyment in that. It's simply some agitation in the mind, that's all. There are different parts in this brain for different sense perceptions. So there is some agitation because of which we think, oh, it's very nice, or it's not very nice. One type of agitation we say nice. Another type of agitation we say not nice. Pleasure, pain. Or beautiful, not beautiful. Tasty, not tasty. So there is no real pleasure for the soul proper, for the Atma, for the real you or real person inside this body. It is some bodily sensation, that's all. Sensation. So real happiness is something else. And that is at the spiritual level, on the spiritual platform. Real happiness on the spiritual platform, not on the material platform. So therefore, to get real happiness, to get real satisfaction, we have to elevate our consciousness to the spiritual platform. And that is done by Viṣṇu worship. Because Viṣṇu is completely transcendental personality. When we come in contact with Viṣṇu through the proper method is devotional service. Then immediately we come to the spiritual platform. On the spiritual platform, there is no sensation. There is no phenomenon. There is no need for sense objects, senses, interacting, producing some agitation in the mind. None of these things are required. It's direct. Prabhupada says, when you chant Hare Krishna, you are directly in touch with Krishna in the form of his sound, of the name of Krishna. Directly you are contacting Krishna. And Krishna is all pleasure. He is a reservoir of all pleasure, ocean of happiness. So you experience, when you properly make that spiritual contact with Krishna, you directly are immersed in the ocean of happiness. And that's called Bhakti Rasa Amruta Sindhu. Or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, Anandambudhi Vardhanam. You are drowned in an ocean of happiness. So that is what is awaiting all of us if we follow, like it is said here. Instead of trying to satisfy your senses independently, you try to satisfy the senses of Krishna. So how do you satisfy the senses of Krishna? Simply begin by chanting Hare Krishna and hearing that sound of Hare Krishna, spiritual sound. Krishna in the form of sound. You hear. And hearing has to be done with your heart and soul. You should be involved in it. It should not be some phenomena that is happening without your involvement. That's why we say, where is the mind or where is the attention when you're chanting or when you're hearing? Where is your attention? If our attention is not on chanting and hearing, then you are not involved in the process. So therefore, if you want to really experience the pleasure of contact with Krishna, contact with the ocean of happiness, Rasa Amruta Sindhu, then you have to involve yourself in chanting. That's why we say, when you are chanting japa, stop all other activities. Stop all other activities. Only, exclusively you must do chanting, hearing. And to be fully involved in chanting and hearing, one more third activity has to be added. What is that? What is that? Huh? Loudly. Counting. गिनती करना है. जप करने के लिए जीभ से बोलना है और कान से सुनना है और साथ साथ गिनती करना है. कभी कभी पूछते हैं क्यों गिनती करना है? Why we have to count? So unless counting is there, properly done, your mind or your attention will not be on chanting and hearing. Counting is such a powerful method of fixing the mind or the attention on chanting and hearing. Try this. You try to give your attention just for counting, for which you have to properly give attention for chanting itself and hearing. How will you know you are fully properly chanted? Counting means fully you have said Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then only you can say you have properly chanted the full mantra. Then only you can say one time chanting is over. If you are not chanted all the 16 words, then you are not properly chanted. Correct? And how will you know you are chanted correctly or not? You're vibrating the tongue to chant, correct? But how will you know you're properly chanted to count? 1 is over. Should have heard all the 16 words. Hai na? So therefore, counting is the secret, the magic of giving attention to chanting and hearing. You see, people who don't count and they say, हम तो always जप करते हैं, दिन भर जप करते हैं, चलता रहता है. So चलता रहता है, लेकिन आपका मन उधर नहीं है, आपका आत्मा उसमें नहीं है. आत्मा और किधर है? So therefore, counting is very, 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 very important. And those who say, I am always chanting, हम तो सदा जप करते हैं. तो best example for us is Namacharya, Haridas Thakur, who can be chanting more than him every day. He was chanting the maximum. But he was counting. He was chanting always, but he was counting. Why is he counting? उनको तो आवश्यकता नहीं है ना, काउंटिंग करने का जरूरत नहीं है ना, सदा करते हैं वो तो. He really is doing sada very nicely. But why is he counting? To teach us that without counting you cannot be sure you are properly chanting and hearing the full mantra. So you understand? This is very important. Sometimes when you are chanting attentively but mind goes away, how do you come to know mind has gone away? When your attention is not on the counting. If your attention isn't counting, then your mind has to take note of chanting and hearing. Otherwise, counting properly is not possible. So, this counting is very, very... So, that's why glorifying the 6 Goswamis, Srinivasa Acharya, another Acharya says, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibhi. Sankhya Purvaka. The Goswamis used to chant Hare Krishna mantra japa, counting very, very carefully. That means fixed number of rounds one must chant attentively. This is the lesson. This is the instruction. This is the teaching. So 16 माला जप करते हैं, लेकिन गिनती करके पूरा ध्यान पूर्वक करना है. Then only you can count properly. Otherwise, counting is never sure. You're never sure whether you chanted properly. And by fully, attentively chanting and hearing, you're coming in touch with the sound form of Krishna. And Krishna means full of pleasure, transcendental happiness, transcendental bliss. So he will fully supply as much as you want, more than what you want. So you become very happy with chanting. Of course, in the beginning, even if we nicely chant here, count properly, still all the material dirt, contamination, that has to be cleansed away. So in the beginning, what happens when you chant nicely is that the dirt is getting cleansed. And after the dirt is fully cleansed, your consciousness becomes fully clear. Then you chant, immediately you will experience ocean of happiness. Immediately. So in the beginning, it requires some time for cleansing. Just like mirror. Mirror, if it is not clean, so much layer of dirt is there. if you have to see clearly your image, you have to cleanse the mirror. Similarly, if you have to experience that ocean of transcendental bliss by coming in touch with Krishna, your heart has to be clean. So to clean the heart, the same process, same chanting, same hearing, same counting is the easiest way of cleansing the heart. But if you cannot do chanting all the time to cleanse the heart in the beginning, then there are other activities. Variety of activities are there in bhakti. 64 varieties of activities. So you also add, along with chanting Hare Krishna, you also read Krishna book, or you worship deity, or you take prasadam. Like that, so many activities you do, all that will help you to actually cleanse very quickly. And after cleansing, just one time you chant, it's enough to experience that greatest transcendental bliss, Krishna consciousness. Okay, so I'll stop here. Any questions anybody's got? No questions. अच्छी संतान है तो उसको क्यों भगवान के पास जाना है, क्यों बैक टू गॉडेड जाना है? इसलिए कि ये सृष्टि का वही उद्देश्य है. We don't belong to this world. We all belong to कृष्ण लोका. अब आ गए हैं यहाँ पर, so we should understand this is not our home. So Prabhupada says home is Krishna loka. So Krishna has made this world in such a way that by following the religious principles, which is devotional service, we can actually prepare ourselves to go to Krishna loka. So, to produce good children means to give somebody an opportunity to get a good training from the parents themselves. Parents are devotees, and parents themselves can train their children in devotional service. And good children means they are ready to receive the training. They are ready to receive the training. And they'll very nicely accept the parents' instructions in devotional service. Whereas not good children means they'll be going towards sinful activities, irreligious activities. Divine nature and demoniac nature. Daivi swabhava, asuri swabhava. So good children means सत संतान का मतलब है दैवी स्वभाव. दैवी स्वभाव, naturally they will be attracted to devotional service. They will listen, they will follow. Very easily they will take up devotional service and they'll go back to Godhead. That's why good population, good children, दैवी स्वभाव. And example is there in the Bhagavatam. Kashyapa Muni and Diti did not follow religious principle. So demons were born. है ना? So demons will not do devotional service. Any other question?
Maharaj, you told that the purpose of creation is to going back to Godhead. So when the four Kumaras they practice self-realization, then why don't Brahma become angry?
Brahma became angry because his purpose of creating that 4 sons so that they will increase the population. Brahma's work itself, duty itself is to increase the population. Give a chance for the conditioned souls who are in this material world, to give them a chance to actually try to enjoy materially, but understand that real pleasure is possible only by devotional service, pleasing Viṣṇu or pleasing Krishna. So then they will please Viṣṇu and Krishna, they'll become happy and they'll also go back to Godhead. Both will happen. So Brahma actually is creating to give a chance living entities to actually practice devotional service under proper direction. So the Kumaras refused, so Brahma became angry. But when Brahma understood, why did they refuse? Why are they refusing? Then he became pacified. They were not refusing because they wanted to independently enjoy. No. They refused because they wanted to dedicate their life for tapasya. So one of the items of tapasya is abstaining from sex life, brahmacharya. That's called brahmacharya. So even those who are engaging in sex life according to religious principles, they are also following tapasya. That is also tapasya. Householders also, if they strictly engage in sex life only for generating good population, satsanta, they are also doing tapasya. Tapasya means to stop all sinful activities, to give up independent enjoyment. That is tapasya. So that is possible for anybody who follows the principles of Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki